just loves me this.
To the left, to the right, stand up, sit down, to the left, to the right, lean forward, lean backward, to the left, to the right, stand up, sit down, to the left, to the right, love lifted me, love lifted me, when nothing else could help. Love lifted me.
Good afternoon, everyone. I didn't have lunch yet. You guys did. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you happy to be here? The information you're getting tonight, people are paying hundreds of dollars, right, Dr. Tonkins, to get that information. So thousands of dollars. Be happy to be here. Are we happy to be here? Welcome to this afternoon program. At this time, I'd like to ask our first elder, in case you haven't met him, Elder Lightbody, for opening prayer as we begin this afternoon's program. Please stand.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have blessed and called us into your presence, and we thank you for what we've already experienced. We ask now that you will lead out in this session, that not only will we learn principles to live by, to become better in business, in wealth creation, and propagation, but may we learn the principles of your kingdom, which will enable us to prosper and to be a blessing to humanity and to the honor of your name. So thank you for our presenters. We ask a blessing upon every participant, and may we leave this place satisfied that we were at your feet as you use these your servants for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to ask the individuals, our panelists, to please come forward. Dr. Janet Tonkins, Mr. Robert Belmont, and Sandra and Dewitt Evering. Please come forward and assume your position, your seat. Your names are on the table. Yes, it appears so. I'd like to welcome everyone to this afternoon's program once more, and to our visitors, welcome to the First SDA Church of Paterson. My name is Nadege Allwaters, along with my husband, Adler Allwaters, who will be here shortly. We are the director of the Family Life or Relationship Ministries for this church. Before we continue, I'd like our pastor to come forward and give his greetings to the congregation.
Thank you so kindly, Lady Allwaters. And welcome to our panelists. We are happy that you're here. And to this wonderful group of men and women destined for greatness. I rise to affirm the work of the Sabbath School and Relationship Ministries in putting this wonderful program together. Part of God's mission in the earth is to make sure that all of us receive dominance in our areas of giftedness, which means that portions of the earth must be given to us. And as we receive the portion of the earth that belongs to us, one thing we learn is that where there is no management, God retards growth. So one of the things we want to make sure today is that as we think about generational wealth, that we have proper management and implementation of those strategies that God has given to us so that God can expand our territory. May God help us to achieve these things today as a result of the information that will form us into better individuals fit to receive God's blessings. Thank you so kindly.
Thank you, Pastor Francis. I'd also like to welcome our First Lady, Sister Francis, to please stand so that our visitors can see you as well as those online. This is our First Lady, Sister Paterson Francis. So our panelists will discuss the topic tonight. How many of you, do you know the topic? Let me see if you review the bulletin, because it was on the bulletin today. Our topic, going once, twice, that means you did not review the bulletin. You can't read it now. Our topic is building generational wealth and leaving a legacy. I know there are people watching us online. If you are and you have questions at the end of the discussion, please type it on the chat, and our First Lady will monitor that for us. Questions coming from the Facebook and YouTube, all social media. Thank you, First Lady Francis. So this afternoon, we have a panelist of individuals who will be sharing their perspectives on this important topic. Panelists will give us some insights and thoughts on the steps they have taken to build wealth and lessons they've learned along the way so that we can start building wealth for our families and leaving a legacy. Our first panelist on our panel is Mr. Robert Belmont. I know all of you must know Mr. Belmont. He's an accountant in the city of Paterson. I have worked with him as an estate planning attorney. He's sent me clients, and I've done the same, and I know he does a wonderful job in helping the community and as well as the clients. I know he's done other things, so I'm just going to be brief in introducing them, then they'll speak a little bit more about themselves in the interest of time. Next to Mr. Belmont is Our Lady, Dr. Janet Tonkins. Dr. Tonkins is passionate about educating our people on building wealth and financial literacy and also leaving a legacy specifically for women and young children. She is the author of 2 books. The first one is entitled Resilient, The Power of Get Back Up. And the second one is Turning Point, which is co-authored by Jack Canfield. She'll discuss a little bit more. There's also a magazine called Wow, Women of Wealth. If you'd like any of these items, you can talk to us after the discussion. Then we have our powerful couple from this church, Mr. and Mrs. Evering. They will then share their personal journey as professionals in this great state of New Jersey of how they've acquired or continue to build wealth and their desire to leave a legacy for their families. As you know, Dewitt Evering is an educator, lifelong educator in the city of Paterson. If you've gone to any of the public schools in Paterson, you've had him either as a teacher, a guidance counselor, and now a principal. And Sandra's in the banking industry, in finance, has been for over 2 decades, so I cannot wait to hear what we will hear this afternoon, what they will share with us this afternoon. So we will begin first with Mr. Belmont. You have the floor. Questions? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you do, what you've done to acquire what you've acquired?
Yes.
And then,
first of all, thanks for inviting me here. One of the most important things that I have learned about generational wealth is I have to know my history. I have to know exactly where my parents, where my grandparents, where my great-grandparents did. And that motivates me. For example, I had a great-grandmother. I never met her. She had 8 children. Her husband, which was my great-grandfather, left, never saw him again. Instead of her, crying for welfare, which wasn't existent at the time, she got a skill as a midwife, and she was able to, the house that I actually own in Delaware, she built the house cash. He had land, livestock. Now, fast forward, if she did it in 1913 with 8 kids, what is our excuse? What is our excuse? And I hear people saying they want to get into quick schemes, whatever. You have to pay your dues. If you want to be an accountant, you want to be a developer, you have to know your skill set. My grandmother would say a word I can't use in church, but if you're going to do it right. And that's what motivated me. I was a late bloomer when I went to college. I was making some okay money, and I had an experience. Woke me up, got serious about my career. At age 29, got my master's, and at age 31, I was CFO of a $100 million company. But I know that's not what I wanted. I wanted entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, my circle that was around me, only they had good jobs, managers, what have you, but no one had that expertise as an entrepreneur. That is risky. I know we go to different churches, and I enjoyed the service this morning. Faith. faith. It's okay you get a job 9 to 5. You know it's coming on the 15th end of the month. As an entrepreneur, it might not come for a month. I might work on a deal that might not come through. But one thing I have learned to do over a lifetime is give it to God. I always pray. When I don't pray, I was in a situation where I owned a Golden Corral restaurant, and I was the majority owner. I had the money, and I thought this particular person had the expertise to drive it. He drove it in the ground. So one thing that I learned, if you never had no experience in it, don't conquer it by yourself.
Actually, just before we pass on to Dr. Tonkins, can you hear me? I know you're a business owner. How can you share with us the process? Because we do have many people who may have the desire to own their own business or open their own business. So as a business owner for decades, what was the process for
Well,
you?
the first thing is that the last job I had on Wall Street as an assistant treasurer of one of these large companies, I wanted more. I wanted something more. I want to give back to the community. I have a wife. Hi, honey. Wave at me. And I have 2 children that I just, coming on Wall Street from working from 7 o'clock in the morning, you're leaving at 7 o'clock at night, coming home, you're tired, you don't want to hear nothing, you just give them the money on Saturday to go shopping. I can go relaxing, whatever. Then we go to church on Sunday, then we're back over again. For 1 year, I know I'm going to get in real estate development. So what I had to do was read the subject matter over and over and over and over. But the first thing is, when I do a lot of mentoring, when a person come to me and said, I want to open a business, I said, what type? When we finished the discussion, she wants to own 25 businesses. Doesn't work. Pick 3 or 4 that you really want to focus it on. If you do hair, focus it on hair. If you do whatever you do, try to perfect that. The next step is get it incorporated, and you can just go to New Jersey website. I can help you with that for free, and the New Jersey costs. I'll do it for free though, but get it established as a corporation, and then fast forward. Once you get it as a corporation, you making money, and don't tell me, because I do 1,000 taxes, at least $500, 500 taxes a year. Self-employed individuals say, I didn't make any money. Meanwhile, look at the neighborhood. They're driving an S550. They have a large house, and IRS is not stupid. They can do what they can call, they can just figure it out how much you're making. They can say, well, your rent is this, your car is this, your car is that. Based on this, you should have $100,000. You only showing $30,000. Then, you'll need God then, because IRS don't play. But find you a good accountant, find you a good lawyer to help you through the process. Marketing, it's different ways. My over the years, I never have advertised for that, only because I'm saying I cannot. If I advertise, I get 1,000 customers. I can't handle 1,000 customers. So until I get to a position where I know if I have assistant to bring in that kind of influence, I can get it. But don't overplay your hand. You're your only stock. Reputation is everything. Do your best. Sometimes you're going to miss the mark, but do your best. And be passionate about it. And if you are married, if your spouse does not support it, it's not going to work. Not going to work. It might work until you get $1 billion. Then he said, I want a divorce. He gets his half, or she gets her half. But until the young people, my parents sent me to school to get a good job. That's all I knew. Get a good job. My counter white friends were going to school to continue their parents' business. Different story. It's okay to do a 9 to 5 because, again, you don't have that faith to believe or see yourself in that position, it's going to be complicated. Any questions?
Thank you. Dr. Tonkins. Thank you. Your journey.
I'm a game changer, a life changer too. Empowering men, women, and children, that's what I do. Transforming and changing lives with financial literacy and real estate investing so that they create wealth and legacy. You see, my mission is simple and clear: to impact this generation and change the next generation, one mind at a time, one heart at a time, one life at a time, and one home at a time. I am Janet Tonkins, the cash flow diva, and I buy houses like other women buy shoes. Throughout my 37 years, 1,931 weeks, we've created over $750 million in properties with our portfolio of over 100 houses in Maryland, New Jersey, and Atlanta, Georgia. I've been on the cover of Women's Wealth magazine. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a publisher, and I'm a philanthropist. I'm also a hard money lender and a private lender. But most importantly, I am a servant and a child of God. I seek God first, and everything else will be added unto me. A mother of 3, married 45 years to my best friend, lover, business partner who's in the rear. And so it's my aim and my mission is to help our people and people that look like me to also create wealth. You know, it's not enough for us to just sit here and establish wealth and legacy for our own families. We have to do it for the masses. And so I'm on a mission. My husband and I, my baby brother and I are on a mission to do that as well. I am a product of Paterson, New Jersey. I live in Baltimore, Maryland right now, from the Christopher Columbus Projects, Building 4, 15C. Low self-esteem, okay? But I've overcome that. I've always wanted something a little bit different. And people tell me that, you know, I was reading at the age of 4 years old, and at the age of 6 years old, I was teaching other people. But I'm a product of the 60s, and with baby boomers, and I come from Jacksonville, Florida. Well, you know, at that time, it was segregated. So people that look like me, especially dark-skinned young girls, nappy-headed little girls, were not given those advantages. And so some of those things creeped up on me, as you know, and when I moved to New Jersey, it was even worse. So that's a bit about me, and I do have a presentation when it is my time. But if there are questions that you need to ask me now, I'm more than happy to answer them.
We'll go to Sandra, and I'll come back to you, Dr. Tonkins. Go ahead.
Hard act to follow. Basically, what you've heard already is exactly where you need to be. So my parents migrated here to give us an opportunity, right? So the U.S. is still one of the best places for opportunities. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, right? But you have to make use of it. You heard Mr. Belmont made a point about our parents taught us and pushed us to go to school, get an education. Your Caucasian counterparts are going usually because they have businesses that they can step back into. But what we have to do is we need to go to school, and young people, you're not getting the break. Education is important, right? Doesn't mean you can't rise without it, but if you want a higher start, you need to get an education. It's a non-negotiable. Let me just start there. When you go to school, particularly college, we need to make sure that we're spending time networking. And I cannot say that enough, right? It's not what you know, it's who knows you. You've heard the comment that you are the product of the 5 closest people. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You have to step out of your environment and reach out and learn, right? Life is about mentorship, and ask to be mentored early in your career, asked to be mentored in the middle of your career, and you never stop being mentored. Fortunately for me, I worked a lot with business owners, so I heard their stories. There are a lot of incredible people of color doing very well, and they started from humble beginnings. Couple of basic things. When you start working, one of the pieces you need to learn to save. Now, sometimes that's hard to do on your own, but most companies have a 401k, right, which they match. You're absolutely insane if you do not participate. They're matching you. They're giving you 3 to 6% on the money you save. Tax deferred, and sometimes completely reversed, depending on obviously your accountant can give you better advice. But that's the first thing. As soon as you're eligible, go join the 401k, 401b if you're in education. There are options. Second piece. Generational wealth is going to have to be on your career. Let me be clear, as I am not an entrepreneur, but I am an investor entrepreneur, right? So what I'm going to share with you, I went to school. I did the hard piece. I have a professional career. Pays me pretty well. I'm very happy and comfortable. But be clear, if you work long enough, you're going to run into a couple problems. Companies run into financial difficulties. They lay you off. You can lose your job. You could be downsized at any age. You have to find a way outside of your income to make money. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a whole host of programs out there. Dr. Belmont mentioned about starting a business. There's a group in Newark, in New Jersey, and NGIT. They help you write your business plan. They're a group of retired executives. There's help if you want to be an entrepreneur. There are great programs out there, even particularly in urban markets. The other piece I will share with you, I believe strongly in investment, and there's a couple of things you need. If you're going to keep your money in a checking account, that should be to pay your bills, right? You have to step out. You need a good financial advisor. You need a good accountant. You need a good attorney. Those are where you go. And the second piece is you need to buy real estate. I don't care how much or what property or the area, but you need to buy real estate, and most of them you can leverage the down payment to get another property, to buy another property. But there are multiple ways.
Thank you.
This evening is generational wealth. And my introduction, based upon the moderator here this evening, my response will be based upon my experience as a single person and also as a married person. I did not get anything from my parents. There was nothing generational that was passed down to me. But I wanted, from I was single, to pass something down to my children. Consequently, what my children will get will be from what we have put together, or what we both have. But the point is, from I was single, I always wanted to be a professional, because I know the benefits of being a professional or being an educated person. But what was the priority in my thinking was my relationship with God. And from I was single, earning not much, my faithfulness to God came first. And that is, my tithes and offering were always pulled from the little I had. And I will say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that I have never been short. I have had my own apartment, I've had my own car, buy my own food, and no wonder I'm such a good cook today, because even from then, I was cooking what I wanted. So that was the start when I was single. And then I also started a savings. Not much money, but notice the priority. God, my interest was still there to accumulate what I could, get an education, and then I saved a little bit. Not much, because I was only getting a little bit. Then when we got married, then the savings continued, and the budgeting. Those days I recall, before I got married, I was using some envelopes. And on these envelopes, I would write tithe, another envelope would be rent, another one would be food, and then I divided accordingly based on what I was getting. And I will say to you, ladies and gentlemen, that sometimes at the end of each month, I found more in those envelopes than what I budgeted and should be in those envelopes. And, but as you know, I'm an educator, and I will always be an educator, and that's where my drive is. So I hope my message will also reach this evening to our young people.
Thank you. I recently read an article that discussed Black wealth and acquiring wealth. I just want the panel to talk about the systemic barriers that building wealth for Black families that we face. Right? So we can't ignore that. There are barriers. And in the article, the author noted that in 2022, the median wealth for Black households was approximately $44,890 compared to $285,000 for white households. It continued. The majority of Black households, 55%, had less than $41,700 in wealth in 2021, according to a Pew Research Center. And the average white households home value in 22 was 2.5 times higher than that of Black households. So I'd like you all to speak to the barriers that we do face as we try to acquire wealth. There are barriers. How did you overcome those barriers? And what are your advice for someone who's trying to get out of where they are?
Well, the most important thing is, I said before, is education. I mean, I can't stress that you have to, college is tough. Ask my wife and I, we sacrifice. And it's very common that the parent would send the kids to school, and the kids get out of school, and they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's not the effect of college. Parents, you brought these kids into the world. They didn't ask to come into the world. If you have to work 3 jobs, get that kid to college. And our goal was to, when they walked away and when they finished graduation, when they turned that tassel, their debt was 0. And I said, I did it for 2 reasons. 1, to get a head start. Number 2, they wanted to come back to my house. That was a joke. It's called a boomerang. But when I got into Wall Street, my first accounting job, I noticed that my white counterpartners had homes. And I would say, we're making the same amount of money. What's the difference? The difference was their parents gave them the down payment to the house. Big difference. When I walked in their house, they had no furniture. They had maybe, nothing at all in the house. Versus me, houses filled with debt. So they sacrifice. So in order to get ahead, the first thing is education, education, education. Then once you perfect the education component, then you start to build wealth. Like my brother was saying, you start building wealth. I mean, it's deplorable to I'm not saying it derogatory, to have $42,000 in income. And you're trying to buy, in this economy, try to buy a house at $400,000, $500,000, you're out of reach. You change your game plan. Talk to a professional like myself and the panel here. We talk. At least I give volunteer information. I do taxes. I have helped individuals with their budget to get them a home. They're paying $1,500, $2,000 a month in rent, and I convince them you buy a 2 or 3 family house that you'll pay no rent, keep the house for 3 or 4 years, get the equity, and get your dream house. That's how it works. But again, we are scared. We said all this development in the Fourth Ward, I mean, you can remember 15 years ago when you had to duck bullets that come anywhere. Now, gentrification is taking place. Why? Because they have set it, they commingle their money together. And they say, look, Johnny, we put $1,000 each in the pot, 1,000 of us. That's $100,000. You buy the first house, then you buy the second house, and you buy the third house. We as black folks have got to wake up and start trusting one another. I mean, it's deplorable when I was on Wall Street to hear my guy that reported to me was trying to get me fired. I said, wait, but you report to me. When he found how much money I was making, he said, you making that kind of money? As I said, yeah, you report to me. Remember, I'm your boss. And I thank God for wisdom and knowledge and staying abreast of what's going on. But when we get together, and you know what? Put $1,000 together, 100 of us. And make sure that that person is, the banker, make sure everything is up to par, and we invest as a team. Now, everybody can't sit at the table. Everybody can't. Janet, she's been out there. She understands real estate. She has to be in charge. I'm okay with that. She's a proven track record. My lady with the bank, that's all necessary. But again, going back to what I'm saying, you have to put a system in place for generation continuing wealth.
If I may respond also to Madam Moderator, we sometimes as black people are our own barriers.
Mm-hmm.
We
Right.
shop too much.
Let me.
And many of the individuals who live on the hill, metaphorically speaking, we are the ones who put them there. Because we are the ones who shop. If we have a wedding, for example, and you are going to attend a wedding in December, and you attended one in July, you cannot wear the same outfit you wore in July in December. You have to go buy another one. Many of those who are of a higher color do not do that, because the one that you bought for the first wedding is still in the plastic hanging in your closet. Yeah, you can still wear that one. It's a different wedding. But we have to go spend. And many of the rich people today have been made rich because of our spending habits. I would also say to us that we are our own barriers based on the way we think. It is better to buy than to rent. You can live in that house for 30 years renting. And I can promise you that after 30 years and you walk out with nothing. That house is still left behind. But it is possible if you had bought the house 30 years before, 30 years have elapsed. When you walk out, that house belongs to you and it belongs to your children. And lastly, it is wise to buy the humblest house in the most expensive neighborhood. Because eventually, when you are ready to sell, that house is going to worth more based upon the ongoing market for all the other rich houses in that neighborhood. In other words, we are our own barrier because we don't buy smart.
Okay, and so I'd like to discuss that as well. So first of all, let's talk about credit scores. The average credit score of blacks is from 580 to 620. And if you live in a 580 credit score neighborhood, you only live to be an average of 61 years old. Home ownership rates in those areas are in the dumps. Violent crimes are up through the roof. The average high school diploma rate, 65%. However, if you live in a 700 credit score rate, you live to be an average of 81 years old. And your college and high school rates are 95%, and home ownership is 75%. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to learn how to play the game. Yes, education and formal education is absolutely necessary. But one of the reasons that we have been so very successful If you need to make a duck look like a duck, then you need to learn how to do that. So if your first house, if you need a 620 or a 640 credit score, then you need to work and learn how that can be accomplished. And it's absolutely very easy. And we talk about us being our own barriers. We're absolutely right. We're making Louis Vuitton, we're making all these other name brands rich, and they don't even give a darn about us, pardon my language. We spend $1.3 trillion. Did you hear me? $1 trillion as consumers. As a matter of fact, that's my next book. Pocketbooks, Hills, Houses, You Choose. Okay? And I'm gearing that to our African American women. We say we don't have any money, but I see our nails, our hair, the Nike shoes on the 2 and the 3 years olds that they can only wear for a month or two. So take that money, put it aside. Let's get together, as Robert has just said. Take $1,000. We bought our first property on 729 Broadway, on Broadway and 33rd Street, in 1987, for $90,000. It was a 3-unit property. It was first floor, we had 7 rooms with 3 bedrooms. Second floor, we had 7 rooms, which we took. Third floor, we called it our baby-making room, because the third floor tenants would stay there for about 2 years and then have babies, then move out. And then we had 5 finished rooms and a kitchen in the basement. 9% interest at that time. We refinanced and cashed out on that house over 5 times, moved to Baltimore in 2001, sold that house 2005 for $415,000. Even giving and a single Hispanic lady bought that property. We gave her $15,000 towards her mortgage, and we paid $3,000 to repair the furnace. Now, where else can you go and do that? And you don't even need a high school education or anything for that if you get the knowledge. And right now, with the internet the way it is, the knowledge is out there for you. Now, I coach and I teach people, and I actually loan them the money, but they have to have some qualifications in order to do that. And then, not all of us are meant to be landlords. I actually love it, because I'm an educator and I'm a teacher. I'm a Bible study teacher, and I'm a president of the usher board, and I love teaching and giving my knowledge as well. We also, in my church, what I do is I teach the babies from 5 to 6 years old to start investing. I leave them with $5 when I leave them, because you can start investing now with as little as 50 cents or $1 on Cash App and other things. So we need to start teaching our babies and teaching them from I come from parents who live from paycheck to paycheck and never owned anything. So what happened is, in 1973, I went to get my first car, 1973 Cougar, and of course I needed a cosigner. And I guess you know what happened. I couldn't get them, so I was determined that would be the last time. I had to go and get a friend to actually co-sign for me in order to get that car. So I looked at us as a whole and said, you know what? That's not going to be me. And I started at 16 years at New Jersey Bell on Paterson Street as a telephone operator. Didn't go, although I had a scholarship to Rutgers, I didn't go. You know why? Because I was in love with somebody who did not want to see me succeed, married to him, engaged to him, and he wound up not even marrying me. Wind up marrying 3 other women, and he himself, all 4 of them died of AIDS. So God has been with me all of my life. And I was determined, to make him feel sorry for what he had left. And so I've always wanted to do better, be better, and make my parents better. And she's absolutely right. I had girlfriends. At 18, we had a 401k. They paid us 30.5%. So when I left Verizon after 35 years, I retired with over $1 million. So And there are some girlfriends that never even partake of that. We also do other investing. So when the pandemic occurred, I couldn't loan money, so I buy mortgage notes. I invest in oil and drill, and I teach people how to do those things. But we educate. I educated myself, and my husband and I started saving when we started dating. We started putting money in the water jar together. So those are things that we have to do, and some of us, it's not our fault, because they sit to the dinner table and they talk about financing. How many of you ever knew what your mom and dad ever made? I never knew what mom and dad ever made. And then daddy worked was a veteran. So for you all that are veterans, you can use the VA loans to buy your first house. You can get either anywhere from a 1 to 4 unit property with no money down.
I do have a question. For those families or individuals who are sitting in the audience who may be making 40, 50,000, how do they start? How do we start when they can't even make the bills on a monthly basis? How do you start to build that wealth?
There's a couple. I mean, I guess the best way, we are our own worst enemies. And I kind of want to just clarify a couple of things, because again, you have to decide what you want and who you are going to be in your own life, right? Don't let anyone dictate to you what you want, what role you should have, where you should live. If you are easily swayed, you'll never get from under. I have never lived my life with people dictating to me who I am, right? My parents raised me to understand they wanted me to have better. And better to me means in a number of arenas, right? There are opportunities. And let me speak on the shopping, because I want to be clear. It's not the shopping, it's how you shop, right? My father is old school. The attitude is if you use a credit card and you can't pay the bill next month in full, don't buy it. So you're paying interest. I think there's a idea that we have, and it's a generational, I call it imprisonment, right? How you look, how you feel impacts how you are viewed. How you feel about yourself is how you're treated, right? Now, I will tell you the clothes, this, not gonna make you, but it's called balance, right? So part of it is you have to have an objective when you talk, how do we make it? Start out small, right? My mom came here, she was in housekeeping, my father was a bus driver. They had a firm belief of paying and saving. They put me in private school. One of them was making minimum wage. I went to Paterson Catholic at the time because they didn't like the environment at Eastside when we first moved here. They weren't rich, but they believed in if you don't have a goal, you will never have anything. We can sit here from here to kingdom come. And because I'm saying you have to decide who you are and what you want for yourself and how you want to live. Right? So at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you right now, you all know I like nice things. But guess what? I still have a house. I still have my car. I still have investments. And I give to God first. Let me just start there.
Me too. That's right.
My mom was a stewardship leader at this church for years. And she had a saying, and I tried it, and it works. Give to God first, and you will not struggle. You're not going to struggle. Right. But when you don't, guess what? That Louis Vuitton that you wanted for $50 is going to cost you $2,000, right? Why? Because you're spending in the wrong arena. Home ownership is important, investment is important, and there are options. I will tell you, not only do you not necessarily need a down payment, but there are individuals, there are companies called debt service lenders, providing you buy investment properties that the rental income can cover the mortgage. Yes, they don't really care what you make. It doesn't matter. But what I will tell you, your credit score is important. That is the difference, lady. And just break it down simply. That's the difference between you today getting a 4% interest rate on a car loan versus 13, right? Don't allow, and by the way, I'm going to say one last thing. Do not co-sign for anyone. I don't care if it's a phone they need.
That's right.
Do not. You have to say for yourself, if you're co-signing, can I afford to have that debt? Even parents, you have to know your children, right? There are some children or a child you may say yes to, and the other one might say, no, I don't think you're quite ready, because you don't want to burden yourself. So you're here to build generational wealth, but as an individual, you have to take the same step, and you can save. Eventually, if you save 50 cents a day or 50, it grows. You'll be surprised. Put it in a jar if that's what you need. But if you can't do that and you're working full time, I'm going to go back to, why would I not allow a company to take 1 or 2% or 3% of my money and save it and match it? That's insane not to do that. That's what Caucasian people are doing.
That's right.
They sit there and they make sure that when they retire, they're not working at Walmart at 80 years old. You know who's doing that? Black and brown people. Go into those stores. You think they're sitting, they're not bored. That's not why they're at Walmart, but they now need to still pay rent. You will always have to live somewhere. I remember going to a seminar, I'm going to end on this, and it was on real estate. And they said, if you don't feel you should do real estate, get up in the morning, drive to that house that you purchased, sit in front, watch the tenants go to their car. They're going to drive to their job to pay your mortgage. It's simple math. People will always need to rent.
That's right.
Real estate always appreciates. And don't just take one real estate. Leverage that to do something else. But we are our own enemies. We're our own obstacles because we don't, one, surround ourselves with people who can help us. And knowledge is free a lot of times. And number two, you have to decide what you want for your life. It's really that simple.
Thank you. Thank you.
It is. You have to be intentional. You must be intentional. And you said something about setting goals. How many of you have taught your children to sit down and set goals? We should be setting goals from the time we're in the first grade. And so if we start teaching them at that age, then they will be used to that as well. So Mom never taught us, they never set us down to teach us goals, but we had to learn those things in college and in school. But that's so very, very important. We got to be and people are now even saying, well, you don't need to buy a house. No, they're just saying that so that they can buy most of the houses.
Dr. Tonkins, I heard you mentioned earlier that you buy loans. Is that correct?
I beg your pardon. Yes, I buy mortgage notes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if we have someone someone watching who may need that kind of assistance, or someone who may be struggling with their mortgage, is that services that you offer?
I don't
Can
offer.
you talk a little bit about that?
Typically what I do is say, and what is your name? I'm sorry. Sandra just talked about mortgages and DSCR loans. What a DSCR loan is, you still have, as she said, you still have to have a decent credit score. But what a lender will do is they will loan you money based upon the rent that is coming into those homes. You can either do that through refinance, or you can even purchase a property that in that manner. The interest rates may be a little bit higher, but as long as you're getting the cash flow, you don't even worry about the what the interest rates are. That's the way I am, because you're going, those interest rates are that's a tax write-off. So don't even worry whether it's 7, 8, or 9%, as long as you can afford it, and as long as you're going to get some positive cash flow. So what a lot of these DSCR lenders do is they come together as crowdfunders. So they will loan me the money, they'll loan Robert the money, they'll loan Chandra the money, they'll loan you the money. But at some point, they're going to run out. So then what they will do in order to replenish their cash is, so your mortgage, they may ask me, okay, I have some mortgages with this note. This note is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. And I get to pick and choose the ones that I want. So I typically only pick anywhere from 9 to 12%. Owen, my husband, he may pick a little lower. He does some maybe 7 and 8%. So they'll come to me, and because I have the cash sitting in what's called a self-directed IRA, which is where I loan money from, if that cash, and if it's in my self-directed IRA, I'm not earning any interest on it. So I want to get that money out there as soon as possible. So during the COVID, nobody was buying any property. So then I would buy those notes for either 6 months to a year, and I'm earning anywhere between 10, 11, 12%. So for an example, for our young folks, if I paid $100,000 for a note, then at the end of that year, 10% of $100,000, I've made $10,000 in a year. So those are the things that I do.
Thank you. Going back to my initial question, if someone is making $50,000, what do you guys suggest? They take $100 per paycheck and start saving it? I want our people to start, when they leave here today, to have a plan on how they can start the building of wealth. So give them the steps that they can follow in order to begin that creation of wealth.
They have to pay themselves first. First of all, as everybody said, when you tithe, and matter of fact, my accountant, Robert, said, Janet, you sure give the church a lot of money. And I said, you guess what? And I have not struggled not one time at all when I give God. So I give him his money and more whenever I can. So I would say, pay yourself first. If you're making $50,000, you have to figure out in your own mind. So pay yourself at least 5%. Start somewhere. The most important thing is to start. And even if it's only $10 or $15 that you pay, start doing that until you can build up. Create a financial plan. If you're married, then you determine. And now, as somebody said, get yourself a little side hustle. And even the children, now there are 10, 11, and 12-year-olds that are computer literate that are teaching grown folks how to do AI. And I have to tell you, once we moved from New Jersey to Maryland, it's totally different. The African Americans, the blacks, I mean, it's not utopia, but they actually have a different mindset. As a matter of fact, they made me and Owens step up our game because, first of all, the kids have 2 and 3 and 4 degrees there. We have children there that have lemonade stands. In the summer, they call them, it's nothing more than shaved ice. But you can see just about every young kid on the corner selling shaved ice. They are in the streets, they take these water bottles, they take sodas and water, and they're in the streets and they're selling them for $1. So there's a different mindset there. And then we have a scarcity mindset here in Paterson, which is one of the reasons that we moved away from Paterson. And we absolutely do. And here's an incident. Owen and I, we lived on that corner. Owen bought a Corvette. And I'm going to tell you, we buy used cars. I am 70 years old. I did not get my first brand new car until I was 67 years old. You can buy a used car. And I buy a car every 15 years. I don't have to have a new car. So that was one of the ways that I saved. And so now what I do, even with that new car, what I did is I used my own money. And yes, it's a red Mercedes truck. I borrowed my own money from my own self-directed 401k, as opposed to paying Mercedes-Benz 9% interest. I'm paying my own self 6% interest on those monies. So those are things, and I've learned those things because we have partners in larger deals. What they do is when they buy property, the development deals, they not only loan the money, but when they borrow the money, they borrow additional monies from themselves as well, which you don't have to pay taxes on that whatsoever. But in getting back to your camp, it's all about setting your goals, being focused and intentional about those things as well, and then keep doing that forever and ever. I mean, we still save. We still save every single day. And we have there are more millionaires in Maryland, African American millionaires there, but some of them still live paycheck to paycheck.
$1,000 a year. I just want to respond very quickly as far as this is concerned. And that is, yes, $50,000 a year. My response would be, giving to God is one thing, but be faithful in doing so. I'll say this, one thing is giving, but based upon experience, the returns need to be brought into question with regards to giving to God. We are called to give faithfully or return faithfully. And I can promise you, then yes, that is one of the steps. Make sure that you return faithfully. Save and budget. And do not set your hat higher than you can reach it. The last point also is, savings is one thing. But what the bank gives you is significantly less than what is possible. So with that savings that you can naturally do from $50,000 is make sure you start investing. You can invest very small. It can be a CD. And I will also say this, I learned something this week about pushing back. You're in the banking industry, you can talk about that later. But the point is that if they are giving you 5%, you can indeed say to them, you can negotiate. I have not really checked into it as yet, but I plan to do that. But I'm just saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, save, but savings is one. It is better you move some of your money into a small area of investment, and a CD is possible.
Anyone else? Mr. Belmont? Well, we'll take a commercial break right now. Not really. But for those who are watching us online, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat. First Lady Francis, any questions on the chat? There's one in the audience. If you do have questions, please come forward. Well, we'll bring a mic to you. Just raise your hand. Okay, there's a question in the back.
We stand. Hey, good evening, guys. Good evening, everybody. This is awesome, right? No, this really is awesome. I love the fact that the panel is up here and everything is going on. It's very enriching. It's not so much of a question that I had. It's just to add a little bit. So, you guys know me. I'm Omar Henry. For those that don't know me, that's who I am. But I had a previous career as a financial advisor at JP Morgan for about a while. I was born and bred in this church from Paterson. Have parents that migrated and did not really understand stuff financially and had to figure out a lot of stuff for myself. I don't have a college degree, so I didn't go the college route, but for those that know me, I'm highly educated and very knowledgeable. My father always taught me that reading maketh a full man, and I know all the secrets are in a book. One of the best things for me, especially coming from Paterson, I've been around friends, drug dealers, people that have died, people that have been deported. So I'm keeping it real with you, right? One of the best things that work to get out of this situation, just like Sandra was saying earlier, is networking. Networking. And also being dedicated, right? Having a plan, having a goal, because people invest in people that they see are dedicated, that have attention, that wants to go somewhere, and you'll get those that reach out to you. one of the hardest things to get away from is influence and also having peer pressure, right? So I'm kind of talking to the adults, but more so to those in our room that's, because millennials and Gen Z is having a real hard time figuring things out. One of the best things, guys, is, man, don't be the smartest person in a room. Don't be the most accomplished person in a room. That has worked out so great because then you can grow. You can grow. You can learn. So the people that you surround yourself with, like Sandra was saying earlier, I was watching before I came here, they really have a real influence on who you become and where you go, you know? If you're making around $50,000 a year, most people, just like Dewitt said, put their hat higher than they can reach it, put their basket higher than they can reach it, right? Live within your means. The first thing is to set a budget. Most people don't want to do that because numbers don't lie. People do. And sitting down with a pen and paper is one of the most honest conversations you can ever have with yourself and with your family. So the first thing before you do anything is you have to set a budget. Because a lot of people, too, they tend not to set a budget, and they see what they think could be a good investment or something. They go out and do it, and because they don't have a budget or a safety net, they pull at the wrong time because of an emotional feeling. And then they feel worse after that. So set a budget. Then after you set a budget...
I'm sorry not to interrupt, but is there a question?
Oh.
We're
No,
just
I don't-
going to move
no.
with the panel.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, no problem.
No, if you have a question, we'll...
No, I do not have a question. I was just adding from a standpoint.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. But he's absolutely right. It is all about relationships, or it ain't about nothing. It's all about who and not how. I mean, we left Paterson 20 years ago, and the building that you see on 9 Mill Street, the brand new grandparents building, and we're so very proud of that. That is my husband and I, my baby brother and I, as a family, that have built that. We're doing a veterans building right across the street from that on Mills Street, and then we're doing some projects in Newark, New Jersey as well. But you gotta set a budget. Not only do you have to set a budget, you also need to set an emergency fund, which so many of us don't have. Emergency fund, and that's specifically what it is for. If your car breaks down or if it's something that needed, then that's when you're going to go to that emergency fund. So when that within that $50,000, that is something that you should be setting aside as well. But as he said, you shouldn't be the smartest book in the drawer. You should surround yourselves with people, and also to be a servant. What's my saving grace is that I give generously. My tenants get scholarships. If they need clothing, they get clothing. I purchase bedroom suits. So I have a servant heart, and it absolutely comes back to you. You reap what you absolutely reap what you sow.
Yeah, if I could just add one piece too, and I think there's a tendency, back in the days, you stayed in one job until you got your gold watch, right? That's not what you should be doing. I have to tell you quite clearly, if you are in the same role for more than 5 years, there's something wrong, because your minimum increase may be 1 or 2%. You have to change jobs to make money. Be clear on that. You also have to, and you have to be good at what you're doing. So going back to the point made, Omar alluded to it as well, you have to work hard. But the person who gets promoted, guys, is not necessarily the hardest worker. It's the most likable, the most well-known, and the person who takes on projects. That's how you're going to grow. If you are invaluable to your company, you're all going to get other opportunities. But do not sit in any job saying that I'm staying here for my gold watch. It doesn't make sense, right? Most people, when they change jobs, they get at least a 20% increase. That's what you need to be looking for. I don't care whether you have a degree or not. You got to keep moving until you get where you need to be. And the other piece, young people, if you are finished with college and you do not have a LinkedIn, shame on you. You need to have a LinkedIn profile. Why? How do you think recruiters are reaching out? Do you think people in certain levels are going and looking. The recruiters will reach out to you. You get to also connect to people in companies that you may want to work for one day. We all have maybe our dream company. You've got to connect. Because if you're not known, they don't know who you are. Think about how you may have even gotten your last role. A lot of times it's someone who worked at the company who got you the job, right? Well before it was posted. So be smart with your time and do not devalue yourself. If you're not happy, if you're in a negative situation, if you need to move, move. Important to do that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, just a quick endorsement of what O'Neill mentioned about budgeting. Omar, I'm sorry. He's on my mind. Yes, Omar. Budgeting is essential. Budget within. Remember this, budget and budget wisely, which means that even the gas for your car should be included in your budget. And the possibilities, which means that the car might break down. How do I pay for the mechanic? That should also be considered there. And my wife is right with regards to Lincoln, because I'm getting so many offers. I'm all around the place, even out of the state. So people will know you through that technological means.
And I get offers from LinkedIn every single day for president, CEO positions, and so forth. So absolutely. And I would also add to that, when you're in a position, especially when you're in a large company, you just don't want a staff position. You want to be in the position where it's a money-making position, where there's revenue that's coming in. Those are the positions that you need to be looking for.
We have a few
Yeah, we have a
questions.
couple questions. I'll just read one that was written here, and then I'll get to Donovan, then I'll get to you, Wendy, someone else here. Yeah. So this question. How do you get your kids ready to receive the blessing? I'm assuming they're talking about transfer of wealth or whatever the largesse is that you intend to give to those kids.
Well, I know our case, my wife and I, we have a very large preschool, almost 300 plus kids. I have a practice for the last 20 years. The youngest child, here what happened is we made sure her education was set up. She got her master's for the right setup, but we're finding out that I guess it's common within that age group, that's not what they want. And that's very prevalent in Paterson. I know one time with Jacobs Bus Company, they had the largest bus company in Paterson, making $1 gazillion, but there was no succession plan. What I'm saying is that I guess you have to vet your kids more, make sure your kid, that's what they want. If I said to my son-in-law, I can pay you what you're making now. I pay it up front, but you can be my legs. But his mindset is saying, I'm a 9-to-5 person. So you can't change that. So you have to look for alternative. If a kid say, you know what, I don't want that. You have to look for other resources maybe within the family that has a zeal or a drive to be in that position.
Thank you.
And I'm going to say, it's still our job as their parents, whether or not they follow us or not, it's still our job to at least give them those values. What we would do is, at 11 and 12 years old, my son was in the 8th grade. He was on Black Enterprise magazine because we taught him how to invest in stock. He was investing in Walmart, Walgreens, with something called $1 average. All we would do is every single month, you buy the stock directly from the company, and you guys that own Nike, Coca-Cola, all of those things are available to you. You buy one share of stock directly from the company, then every single month, either you send them $5, $10, or $15 a month. So we taught our children that. We taught them, we sat down at the dinner table. We read them books on credit scores or how important scores were to them. And so the information is out there now more so on the internet. So go on the internet, have them read. You know, what I've just learned is only 8% of us read once we leave college. So you can get the knowledge out there. So it's important that we teach them to do those things. They continue to read those things, and at least you can start a little fire in them.
Thank you.
If I can add one point as it relates to preparing your children. So, as I said, I work with a lot of business owners, and there's a phrase they have called the goofy son syndrome, right? It takes them forever to make money, and it takes a minute for your kids to blow through the money, right? So you have to teach your children how to fish, right? Because again, I tell my kids, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I don't know how long your father's going to be here. But, you know, at the age we are, right, 21 and holding, you have to be prepared to live your own life, make your own money. And to the point, if they don't want to follow in our footsteps, we have two very different children, right, two different directions. We insisted on the education, so they did that. But here's the point. They understand they have to let your money work for you. That's what Caucasians teach their children. Your money needs to work for you. And you have to find a way. So if your passion is art and you don't feel you're going to earn much, you have enough residual income coming in to live the life you want to live. So the education piece, and that's life education, not just school education, you need to show them and let them start early. I've already spoken to our children about investing. They need to start, I mean, my first investment was right out of college, right? So they need to understand you have to start early if you want to have a nice ending. That's kind of this is kind of where it goes. You've got to crawl before you walk. And I want to add one piece just to let you know, look in your communities. A lot of the communities, particularly urban communities, have programs that will help you get your first housing, right? For example, Newark has a program that if you're on Section 8, and you are on that for 8 years, they will take the money and allow it to be used as a down payment and be in that house. Ross Baraka, who's the mayor, is building new homes and requiring builders to take care of residents. So that is Newark. I'm sure Paterson has its own set of programs, but there are programs statewide to get you into your first home.
Thank you, Sandra.
I have Section 8 tenants. Half of my portfolio is called Section 8, or they now call it the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So, and that's throughout the state, and you can become an owner of properties with Section 8 tenants in them. And so, but what's important is because a lot of landlords tend to not want to rent to Section 8 because the first thing is they're going to tear them out, tear your properties up. But that's how you manage them, okay? You have to set the expectations for them before they even move in there. I've had Section 8 tenants. I've been in Baltimore 22 years. I have Section 8 tenants that have been with me. And it's also the product that you're giving them. I've been giving granite countertops for the last 15, 20 years. When I have the Caucasians say to me, I don't know why you're giving them all that. All you have to do is give them a standard place. My mantra is, I'm not going to give you anything that I can't live in myself. So my husband and I, we tease one another. If he kicks me out or I kick him out, we can pick and choose any house that we want to go and live in. Because they've been getting the stainless and black appliances. They've been getting the hardwood flooring. They've been getting there. And so as a result of that, they know that I care and that they stay with me for a long, long time. So that's an excellent source of income. But the Bible also says in Proverbs that we need to have at least 8 sources of income. So Caucasians have 7 or 8 different types of income. And so that's where I am too. We do 7 to different types, 8 different types of income.
Yeah. First, I want to thank the panel. Great discussion. Wonderful information shared here. But what we are seeing here is an event today, right? We are not seeing a continuous program. If you look at most inner city communities, they all have churches, multiple churches, lots of churches. All churches have facilities. Facilities is only used 1 or 2 days a week, right? So why can't we have financial literacy on a designated day, on a Monday? That is continuously going because everybody who went to college went there for 4 or 5 years to master subject matter. So here we have yellow room, blue room, you name it. If we choose a day, choose this, and we can systematically create a curriculum and deploy that, because it's going to take time to reverse this problem. This problem didn't start yesterday. It was hundreds of years, right? So that's on the corporate side. So you have multiple churches. If all churches are doing this, everyone will be coming up. Then on the personal side, we all had at least 4 grandparents, right? If show of hands, we probably remember each one. But none of the grandparents had life insurance, all right? So let us imagine now that all of us here, if we have a life insurance, because we're all going to die one day if God don't come, right? It's not something that is generally spoken about in our community. But if each grandparents had $500,000 and there was 2 grandchild, they died, you know the difference that's going to make? That is going to leapfrog us to move back into where we should have been minus slavery or minus difficulties in life. So first, we need to get insurance for ourselves individually, for the family, because if you die when you have a young family, you're going to take away the income from that family, and they're going to suffer worse. So let us move to having an ongoing education program, getting life insurance for us individually, a mother and a father, getting a trust to back up that life insurance so the money is dispersed correctly. And here we have panels of accountants and bankers that can help us put those into place.
Thank you.
Can I say, in our church in Baltimore, we have financial literacy as a Bible study. We have Bible study 7 days a week. We have it morning, noon, and afternoon, as well as evening. We bought the Dave Ramsey course in, and we have that each and every year. And then I teach young ladies in our Bible study. And so our pastor teaches young folks in there. And let me tell you, when I moved there are young ladies and young men, 24, 25-year-olds, that have their own homes with swimming pools. And guess what? No debt. Because my pastor, as a matter of fact, I'm missing today's date at our church because we're tearing up our mortgage. We're tearing up a $6 million mortgage that we paid off in 6 years. We built the church 6 years ago, and we paid off. So my pastor and his wife have been debt-free for over 30 years. So they don't believe in debt, and and that's what we teach in our church. So we do have an ongoing every single one. We have Bible study all year round.
I just want to make one point to Donovan's question. This is something that the pastor has identified as a need in our church, and we have begun to, at least this year, address this. It's something that we're going to be working on systematically. I think he's also alluding to more cohesion among the other pastors and denominations within our community, but at least internally, we have begun to address that. Sandra had a program a few months ago, which was pretty detailed about some of those issues, and we know there's a need, and we're going to make that a systematic program going forward. So that's something that we are keenly aware of, and we are in the process of addressing that. Mr. Belmont, you had a question, you had a point.
More of a comment to that. I work with a lot of banks. The banks have free programs that they want to teach you about literacy, down from the age of preschoolers to adulthood. And that's, like I said, it's a good thing. I always started a Black professional organization because we found out, at least I found out, within the community, a lot of Black businesses were not financial literate. A lot of Black businesses didn't understand business, so you have a lot of situations where, yes, they wanted, at one time I was in Paterson, they were saying that Goblin Avenue and there were litany of Black stores in Paterson. Now we're down to maybe 10. All right, and that's because of education, again, picking the wrong marketing plan, didn't understand the market, having the same, I was an auditor, we used to call it Sally, same as last year approach. So we have to change that, but again, TD Bank, PNC Bank, Columbia Bank will actually come and give you a literacy program for free.
Thank you. Okay, we have two questions.
Well,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Before you take the next question from the audience, I'd like to read a question from online. We have quite
Sure.
a number of them. For our viewers, this is from 7DPOV. The question is, in your opinion, what options are available if you are just starting out in real estate investment?
There are plenty of options depending upon the way that you're going about it. The first thing that I would suggest you do back in the days is do something that I just said that we've done. Identify a 1 to 4 unit property that you'd like to invest in. Depending upon, you can partner with someone, or you can go to most states now, and especially since Kamala is in there, most states have first-time homeowner programs. You can go in there and you can now get a mortgage even as low as $545, but you have to go into a program. And what I typically do is I send first-time home buyers also. There's a program called NACA. NACA is also countrywide. NACA, you can go perhaps with a 2% down payment or 0 down payment, and then your interest rates are much lower than what they are on average. So you got to remember, there is always a way. And if you put your heart on something, just think about it. Anything that you really wanted to, and you focused on it, you did whatever it takes to get it. And so that's what I would suggest someone to do. Go out there and find out what the information there is some. And then I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, and I help people to find those things, and I negotiate it. And you gotta remember, everything is negotiable.
Add to it that the state of New Jersey has a program where they give you $22,000 towards closing costs or down payment. Paterson also has a grant to give up, I think, up to either $15,000 or $20,000 amount. So what you get able to get by my trainer, he and his wife got a home and $22,000 from the state, and plus that bank gave him another $5,000 or $8,000. So they had the $18,000 or actually $20-some thousand to put down on the house, and it's a grant. But one condition is that you have to live in a house for 5 years. After the 5th year, then it's forgiven. But again, I applaud the church having these events, because without knowledge, we cease. It's that simple. I mean, I know a lot, my wife knows a lot, and I assume people know a lot. So then that assumption became what they don't know. Let's show them, like having events like this. I think it's up to, a household of $150,000.
Yes, they all are.
$150,000.
Yeah, they all are.
And
income dependent.
Yeah, most of them are household size income, but the one at the state, I think, is up to like, I think it's $150,000, but the house cannot be more than $450,000. All right.
Okay, my name is Wendy, and I think my question is for Miss Vicky. And I'm unemployed. I'm unemployed, seeking employment, and I am getting a few calls. They're above minimum wage, but not what I'm required to work for. What are your thoughts on that? Should I hold out by remaining unemployed, or should I take what's coming my way until what I like comes?
Well, I know that unemployment, I know during COVID, they offer free, training classes, free certifications. Depending on what you want to go into, I would check with your unemployment case manager and see what monies are available to get to where you want to go. If it's a nursing, the county has money for that. They have these providers that they give money to get nursing classes, different ones.
We have a question here.
My name is Reverend. I just want to touch on the budget, talking about fixed budget. But if you have a fixed budget yourself, that's what you fixed money budget. and you have a budget for spending, and when you get that budget, all of a sudden it jumps up unexpectedly, what do you do then? You're on a fixed budget yourself, and then you fix the budget, and then at the last minute the budget go up, not by $1, by $2, but by $300, $400. What do you do then? I would love to hear.
It's twofold. One, either you need to have an emergency piece within that budget, or the other piece, again, if your income is not meeting your budget, then you have to find something else that will increase your income. I mean, there's no magic formula, right? You're gonna, and that could be, as I said, additional work, online work, projects. If you're good at doing something, you know, people pay for certain things, but your budget isn't going to move unless sometimes you move with the budget, right?
And if you cook well, I mean, that's an excellent. Sell dinners. I mean, you just have to find a way to, because of course you're going to have to bring that revenue in order to meet that budget. So do whatever it is that you need. If you're somebody, I'm always looking for somebody either to clean my house or to organize, because I'm not a great organizer. If you organize well, and people get paid very well to do those little things.
We have another question
We
over
have-
here. Oh,
Can I just take one online?
Sure.
From our viewers. This is from Shane Martin. What is the advice on buying a single-family home versus multiple units that you can rent? What's the best way to go about buying each? Steps 1 to 10.
In my portfolio, I first of all, when I left here, I had all, Paterson, I would dare not buy a single family to rent. So all of my units in Paterson are multi-family. They're 2 units and above. I didn't start buying single families in 2008 when the bubble and everybody else was losing them. Then I had the cash to actually pick them up. But I was picking them up for $30,000, $40,000, $13,000, $20,000. Matter of fact, I was looking at my portfolio, the other day. So for versus a single family versus a multifamily depends upon what your income is and what your credit scores are, first of all, and then what is your goal. Multifamily, of course, you're going to gain more income with a multifamily location. Single families are absolutely easier to rent. And all of my single families, they pay the water bill, they pay the gas and electric, they are responsible for maintenance of all the lawns and so forth, so they are easier to rent. It depends upon the area where you're buying at. Like I said, in Paterson, I would not dare, or in New Jersey, I wouldn't buy a single family. I would only buy multifamilies in New Jersey, but in Baltimore and in Atlanta, we buy single families because we can get them for pennies on a dollar. So it just depends upon where you are.
Okay, we have a question here.
Yeah, I heard the Sister Adler talked about the comparison with the white families and the black families and the income, and you shared about the credit score, and the life expectancy. What I'm hearing, though, is that your wealth is connected to your worth. What I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, for black people, somehow we have embraced the lie that because of who we are, we're less than. And I think it impacts our mindset. Someone used that term mindset earlier. And I think if we can start encouraging each other that it's a lie, that we're not less than. Because I know I work in the community, and I believe pervading idea is that as a person of color, you're less than. That's the message that we've been given. So when Sister Adler shared what she shared with that comparison, I believe it brings out that point that, you know what, if you don't see yourself, like Sister, your wife, hit on that as well. If you don't see yourself as less than, it will impact your income. It will impact your wealth. What do you have to say about that?
Well, one of the things that I've learned, and we do have a mental health issue, and as I said, for me, coming with low self-esteem, believe it or not, there is a survey that says 60% of African Americans do have a low self-esteem issue. So it is a mindset, because we do have to believe that we can do these things, and if we don't believe that, then it's not going to happen. So we do have to change our mindset. It's not a matter of we're less than, but we also have a scarcity mindset. We don't believe. It's just a matter of we have to believe in it, and then we have to have a strong enough why in order for us to overcome. But those are things that are absolutely real and are things that we have to overcome. And some of us as adults, even me sometimes, even at almost 70 years old, have those doubts in my mind sometimes. So we have to have that strong belief, and we have to combat that. Absolutely. It has to be, and we have to start with our babies. That's why I want to start with it. We have to let them know right then and there that what they can and what they're capable of. We have to teach that. You're absolutely correct.
I think if I can, and again, so I'm clear, I'm working on the premise, and again, people have different mindsets, but we have to for ourselves, come to the conclusion that I deserve everything that God wants and deemed for me. I'm worthy. It doesn't start. You need to take that. Needs to be taught to your children. I've never raised my children. I don't raise my children. I'm not raising them. They will never hear that in my mouth. It's clear to them. I've said you can be every and anything you put your mind to if you put in the work, right? So part of what it is we have to. And I'm sorry. I didn't have that mindset. So for me. And to your point, you're right. If you have the mindset that you're less than, then it's going to be harder. But I think we have to take control as a society, right? And it starts. No, but it has to start with you, right? You have. If you don't believe you're worthy, then you're going to accept anything and everything people give you, right? There is no gray area. So that mindset has to come in place. And if you don't do that, what the point I'm making is your life can be less than it could be if you don't put the effort in and you don't believe you're worthy, right? You're a child of a king. You should feel worthy, right?
I have a question.
Yeah, question. Oh.
Okay. This one is for Elder Evering. As an educator, and on this point, what are some of the things that are happening currently in the education space in schools that are these are programs that are in place to help young kids in high school and middle school to appreciate the value of good financial discipline and financial literacy, those kinds of things, the things we're talking about now. In your experience working in the education space?
It's a good question. That is, the educational field has the provisions made for our children to be taught, to be educated as to making themselves better. You mentioned financial literacy. As a matter of fact, they have just added financial literacy to the curriculum for this school year, beginning the school year, not only in the high school, but also in the elementary school. And the point also needs to be made clear that based upon the educational system now in Paterson, opportunities are given now and are being provided for our children to be what they need to be and to pursue, and the programs are there also to help them to reach there. Not only are we educating our children to be teachers and lawyers and doctors, but we are also making provisions and teaching them also to be electricians, to be plumbers, whatever field of endeavor fits or aligns with that child's interest or liking. It's just for our parents and also our children and our educators to work in alignment so that this can be achieved.
Thank you.
I have a question from one of our viewers online. How can you, at the age of 60 and over, be able to go into investment? How can you, at the age of 60 and over, be able to go into investment?
Be intentional about it.
Yeah, you have to be intentional. But remember, the first time home buyer program, for example, there's no age limit. It means the first time you're buying a property. So it's never too late to start. And we heard with budgeting, it's the same thing. Whether you are 60 or 16 or 26, start, right? If you start, it'll get you someplace, but you have to start. As long as you have breath, and you don't know how long you're going to be here, you need to make provisions so you can be here comfortably.
If I could just add to that, I think that's where the legacy piece comes in, right? So you may not be able to enjoy it since if you're over 60, but you're building that legacy. You'll be able to pass on the legacy to your children. If not your children, your church or whomever, your family. So don't see it as building wealth, but you're building wealth not for yourself, but to leave a legacy.
And let me say this. My sister just went down from Paterson. My sister bought her first house at 61 years old. One of my co-employees from Verizon moved down to Maryland, bought her first property at 59 years old. So once again, if that's something that you truly want, age is not a number. I mean, you got to remember, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the guy, when he was in his 60s, and we've really just started to hit our stride in our 60s and 70s, and I'm not stopping. I'm going to continue as long as God gives me breath.
If we don't have any questions, I'd like to add another component to this. As an estate planning attorney, I just wanted to add, there's one piece of document that is essential to passing legacy, and that's having a will. It is important that there's no point in building wealth and be intentional about passing a legacy and you don't have a will. When you die intestate without a will, you're now telling the county surrogate how to distribute and who should be in charge of your estate. And I have seen families who've worked so hard, then after they passed away, the house, because of unpaid taxes, the house gets sold to a tax, right, and other things. You can't open the account. When someone passes away, you can't have the funeral. You can't pay for the funeral until you have a death certificate to be able to go to the bank and take the money out, right? When you have a will, it makes it so much easier, and it doesn't cost that much. So if you do not have a will, leave with this in your mind. Get a will. It should only cost you $200 to $300 to get one drafted. If you don't have any children, leave it to your church. People leave legacy. It's not just to your family. Or think about your church. Leave a portion to the church or charitable organizations that are dear to your heart. So make sure you get a will. That is part of the conversation on building wealth and leaving a legacy. You need to have a will.
I might want to add to that as well. I have cases where a person dies, and I'm the executive of the estate. There is no insurance, zero insurance. And one case, I won't mention the person's name, I said, I don't understand, why don't you have insurance? Because her husband felt as though if she dies, that she would marry someone else. I was like, so he's dead. And you got 4 of these kids you're raising. So, get insurance, life insurance. Doesn't cost that much for term insurance. or even if you work, you have your own business, I had to tell individuals long-term care disability. Well, long-term care is that if you get older, you have a massive heart attack, it can't do anything. Getting a policy, it will cover all those bills. Or if you have a business and they say you're working, and there's a long-term care disability, they'll pay you 80% of what you was making. All right, so those things, especially life insurance, and then as you get older, let everybody know where things are. My father passed, my father took care of everything. So we had to backtrack. Where's the life insurance policy? Where is this? Where is that? Where is this? As you get older, trust your kids and say, hey, this is where things are. This is what the will is. I had one case where they were in their late 70s and they had a 3-family house. And I said, hey, do you have a will? They said, no. But the kids realized that when I died, that Susie on the 3rd floor would get the house. I said, why don't you have a nice a Sunday dinner, invite your kids over and tell them what's going to take place. The kids got fighting. Then they wasn't even dead. It was like, she was like, I can't believe it. I said, well, that happens. I've been in cases where, as an executor, they got fighting. It's like, wait a minute, let's settle this. No, we got Johnny, so things like that. Life insurance is key. Get life insurance. At least cover yourself. A funeral now costs $20,000, $30,000. And my wife and I, we have put money up to bury loved ones. That's deplorable. If you just get a policy.
We have one final, thank you, Mr. Belmont. We have one final question here, and then I think that's.
To Mr. Allwaters, you said a will, get a will. Please clarify for me, because what I was taught that a trust is much better than a will. Also, the point of life insurance, you touch on the point of term life, and there's whole life. Can you clarify those two for me as well?
Term is term. Meaning, for example, it could be for most time it could be 15 to 20 years. If you live, unfortunately, you get 0. Versus whole life, we start in your early 20s, put that money away. By the time you get to 60, you're a millionaire. You're able to take money out of it.
Okay, so a will speaks for you when you're no longer here. You can't have a trust without a will. So if you have a will, the will then say, I, Sharon Francis, hereby appoint Cynthia Wilson as my executrix. I own a house. I want the house to be divided into 3 for my 3 children. The proceeds from the house, I'd like to leave it into a trust. The trust will be in operation for 30 years. And I want my children to obtain a college education and before they can receive distribution from the trust. So the will is a document that speaks for you, that stands in your shoes when you're no longer here. And you can't have the trust if you're not here without the will speaking your wishes. I hope that was clear enough. Pastor, you have a question.
Okay, thank you. So my point, so just a cursory survey of getting the feedback from the folks who are here, and I'm sensing that if it is that there could be some more emphasis placed on somebody, because most of us are employed at this point and are struggling with even meeting our obligations, and yet there is a desire to buy a house, there's a desire to save, there's a desire to move from this place. If it is that there are some steps that we could re-emphasize, so some did not hear that clearly, in more clearer forms, so that they can appreciate and take some nuggets from there to start the process.
Okay, so for me, I would say, especially if you're interested in buying a house, first of all, you want to get educated. You want to learn everything that you can about home ownership. And there are classes in just about every state and every city about home ownership. And I'm saying some people need to go to classes, like my next door neighbor who mows the grass but leaves the grass, everything all over the sidewalk. So people should go to home ownership classes. Then what you need to determine is what is it that you are required to bring as a down payment, and whether or not, and it may not necessarily be anything. As Robert said here in Paterson, in Baltimore, some people have gotten $50,000, up to $50,000 towards homeowners. So find out what it is that you're required. I told you my sister went down and she retired from the county, but in Baltimore she has a security job. The security job company gave her $5,000 towards that property, and she was also a first-time homeowner in the state of Maryland, so she got additional monies. She bought a $300,000 property and still has a low mortgage that is lower than some of my Section 8 tenants. So find out if you truly want to. Get educated, find out what's available to you, and there's going to be more things that are actually coming along with that. If you need to find out what your credit scores are right now, and you can get you can get your credit scores free. Go to Credit Karma or some of the others out there, find out what they are, because even if you're renting, I do a credit check, I do a background check on my tenants, and I want to know what their credit scores. And if they're low, if they're below a certain amount, then I'm not going to have you as a tenant. So you need to know what your credit scores are. That's extremely important. So I would make those things number one. So start getting yourself educated, find out what's available in your town, in your city, look at your credit scores, and then look at your finances as a whole.
Before we continue, we have 3 cars that are blocking. If you could, can we get the driver's license so we know the plate number? License plate, I'm sorry. All right, thank you. I have a couple questions from online. The first one is, in your opinion, what is the difference between the traditional Roth IRA and Roth 401k? You know?
Well, it depends upon where you're investing. I have both. I have both a traditional, and because I own a business, if you own a business, you can get a 401k Roth or a Roth. And the difference with the 401k and your business, if you have, for example, if you have $100,000 in there, you can take $50,000 of that out and you can invest it anywhere. Now, I loan out of what's called a self-directed IRA. Now, with the self-directed IRA and with that Roth, I can't loan to myself to buy a house, but I can buy a house in that self-directed account, but the expenses as well as the income must stay in that IRA. However, I can loan to my sister, I can loan to my brother, but I can't loan to mom, dad, or my children. And traditional. And then there's the traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs that you're going to see from J.P. Morgan and so forth, where you don't really have any say over those.
Okay, the next one is, in your opinion, what do you think about bonds? This is from online. If you know, bonds?
I mean, bonds are good. There's different ones. There's treasury bonds. For example, if you're a high income earner, you get 3 or 4%, that money is tax-free. All right. Then, like what's happened now is as interest rates start to go down, bonds are not good. It's the opposite. For example, when interest rates are high, people buy the bonds to get what they call interest or the coupons. And it's something called par versus a prop. Example, if it's a bond has $100,000 face value, now what you do is you'll sell it less money. In contrast, when interest rates are going up, the bonds will also go in price. But they're good they're good conservative, you have a portfolio, especially if you're just, you're looking at retirement, you want to do less risk. It's always a trick to discovering how many, your investment opportunity. You take your age, less 100. That what should be in stocks, okay? Stocks will perform anything over a period of time. Like, for example, when 2008, when the world was coming to an end almost, people, IRAs and 401k plans taking a hit. Now, if you weather the storm, you definitely made a lot of money on your 401k plan.
But then you have to think of wealth. Think of it as long term. You don't want it. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So I've been investing in savings almost since I was 18 years old. So just take a little bit, and then you want to diversify. You don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket. So you have bonds, you have stocks, you have real estate, you have notes. And then the other thing, there are alternative investments to real estate as well, because you may not want to be a landlord. There's something called real estate investment trust. What they will do, you put your money in there and you can get monthly income the same way that you get rent. There's things called crowdfunding and angel investors. So those are other things, and once again, that comes from knowledge, that comes from reading, and then that comes from being around other financial folks. And as someone said, you don't want to be the smartest book in the drawer. You want to learn from other people, and these are what the other folks are actually doing. So I just make it a point of I read everything that when it comes to financial, and I'm a risk taker. And let me tell you, I have lost money, and I've lost a lot of money as well. But you can't dwell on that at all, and you just get yourself up and just keep on moving along.
I just want to make one quick point, and this is regarding credit reports. I don't know if you guys touch on this, but I would strongly advise you to get a copy of your credit reports and put a freeze on your credit reports. That's very important. With a lot of identity theft that's taking place today, it's important that you take control of that situation. Freeze it, and if anyone tries to access it, it will be blocked because you have to give permission for your credit to be released in order for any lender to give a loan or open an account. So freeze your credit report. Call all of the 3 lenders, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion bureaus, the 3 bureaus, and freeze your credit report. You can do it for your kids, do it for yourself, your entire family, but make sure you do that. It's one way to protect your credit from being used by unscrupulous actors. So that's important you do that.
And you can also do that online. We just did it as well because it's important. As you heard, there's been a lot of breach with your information, which basically includes social security numbers, date of birth, things on that level. You can be held accountable when someone fraudulently uses your credit card. People have found that they have debt that they didn't realize they had. It's very easy to do. Make sure you do it, as Adler mentioned, with all 3 credit bureaus. You can do it online. It takes probably 5 minutes. Good news, if you happen to if you're purchasing something, obviously they need to run your credit report. You can unfreeze it temporarily. I've had clients do that with me. They said, okay, I'm going to give you guys time to run your credit report. I've cleared it for the day, and we do it within that window. Or you can leave it permanently locked. There's no harm. It doesn't impact your credit score. So the credit that you get for paying your bills on time, you're still getting benefits. But that prevents someone avoid someone taking out debt in your name. And remember, you don't need much. Like I just mentioned, if you can provide a social security number, date of birth, name, address, think how easy that is to have. Someone literally will open up a credit card. They've taken out loans on other people's names, okay? So it is important. Thank you, Adler.
So I'd like to add one piece I just thought of. And as you plan, right? As you plan and build wealth, don't forget to take into account your aging parents. Because a lot of times, in our Black community, we tend to take care of our parents. They become part of your estate planning. You have to plan for your aging parents. Are you sending them to a nursing home? Will someone be taking care of them? Because a lot of times we inherit the debt from our aging parents. We take on the responsibility. Keep that in mind as you plan for the future. We tend to inherit the legacy we get. Usually it's debt, not money, to start a business. So you need to incorporate that into your planning. Your aging parents. How will we take care of them? What will happen to them? Very important.
And if I can add, include life insurance for burial purposes. We heard how expensive funeral costs are. You don't need, if the aged parents, at this point, they may not have a large life insurance, but you should at least have that $10,000, $20,000 policy, term policy, which is cheaper than whole life. So in the event they pass, you don't have a disruption. You're already grieving. You don't need the financial stress to go with it.
They get it before they're 85 years old as well.
And I just want to say, per question that was asked from the congregation, that Brother Donovan, the point he made, and the direction that the church is going, it's evident that there are individuals within our congregation who has answers to many of the questions that we have to ask. And there are many relevant information that are available to members of this congregation. So I would only suggest to you, see your leaders based upon any interest or any questions you might have. And I am positive that based upon the trajectory that our church has taken, the path that it is taking, the creative and innovative nature, and it is evident that these forums can be provided and opportunities can be provided for any member of our congregation so that as best as possible we can be on the right track.
And I applaud you guys for that. It's just as my pastor says in our church, everything you have is in the house. So take advantage of it, and that's what we're here to take care of one another.
Thank you so much. We want to say a big thank you to our panelists. And please remember Dr. Tonkins has authored 2 books.
It's Turning Point. So these are 2 books that you can purchase from her, and it gives you a lot of insight in some of these issues that we've spoken about tonight.
Dr. Tonkins, can you let us know where to purchase and the cost for these books?
I did have a presentation, but it's www.thecashflow.
Please use your mic so we can, thank you.
www.thecashflowdiva.com or Janet@thecashflowdiva.com. What I'll do is typically I would have had them here with me, but I'm having some back issues and my husband was already here, so I couldn't pull the heavy suitcase. So if you'll email me at janet@thecashflowdiva.com, what I'll do is I'll order the books. You can also order the magazine as well. I was on the cover of the Women's Wealth magazine. Then what I'll do is I'll get back to you, and you can either pay me by Cash App, Zelle, or credit card. So what I'll do is I'll let you know when the book is available to you. I'll place the order, and then you can Cash App me. But do it at Janet@thecashflowdiva.com.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Janet@thecashflowdiva.com. Just website www.thecashflowdiva.com.
Can we just greet Dr. Tonkins' husband in the back, Mr. Owen Tonkins? Hello. Okay, so this is the end of our program. This is it. No, it's the end. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're going to have closing prayer, and
Let's please stand, and I want to say thank you again to our panelists for taking the time to come out. Let's give them a round of applause again for this beautiful presentation this evening.
Pastor, do you have any final words? If not, we'll close. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Elder.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Loving Father, we are so thankful for this privilege and the opportunity to be able to assemble and share these important points on how we're able to not just generate wealth, but also use the resources that you've given us, both in our time and talent, to not make our lives better, but to make our communities better, our country better, and our church better, to build on the things that you've asked us to do and to be responsible stewards of everything you've given us. May this program be a blessing to each and every person present here tonight and also our viewers online. We pray for the continued blessing upon your church, each and every one of our members, and most of all, our panelists. We pray that you'll continue to bless them and let them continue to be a light and a beacon of hope for others as they share the message on how we can be responsible stewards. Thank you for this evening's program. May you continue to bless us and keep us and be with us as we travel to our respective homes. Thank you for this opportunity. We pray again for Christ's sake. Amen.